of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Shall we pray? Our Father and our God, we bow at this hour to give your name glory, to give you praise. Thank you, our Father, for all of the gifts and graces that you've given to us and our families. We invite your presence now in this meeting as we move forward in ways and means by which we might move this county forward academically. We pray your blessing upon this board, upon this district as a whole. We pray, our Father, for every student, every parent, every teacher, and special prayer for our director as we move forward. Give her the insight and the wisdom to lead us in a way that you will get glory and honor. This we pray, this we ask, in the name of Jesus, who is our Christ. And the people of God all said together, amen.
I'd like to welcome everyone here, but we have two special guests here tonight that I want to recognize. We have our friends from Hardeman County, David Baker and Bobby Tucker. They will be evaluating us tonight. That's part of our, I guess, what we have to do to be a board of distinction is to get evaluated by two board members from another school district of a level 3 or greater. So we're glad to have them with us here tonight. They're both good friends of mine. We've done a lot of things together through the years. I've served with, I'm actually serving with David Baker on the board of directors of TSBA right now. So we're glad to have y'all here. We appreciate y'all being here and evaluating us here tonight. Okay, at this time, we'll go ahead and approve the agenda. Motion made by Mr. King and seconded by Ms. Botiford. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Did I get it wrong?
Ms. Taylor.
Okay, and there you have the consent agenda there. The only thing in it actually is the minutes from the May 4th meeting. I'll entertain a motion to approve that.
Also moved.
Motion made by Ms. Carter.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Atkins. And there's no discussion on that. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. The last couple of months, we've actually had the director of school evaluation, and every one of our board members did participate in that. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Reverend Chris to give the results of that.
All right. The director of school evaluation started in the month of April, ended in the month of May. Tabulations were for the evaluation was done by TSBA, which is Tennessee School Board Association. Our overall score for our director is 4.25 from the Appendix A, Appendix B, and Appendix C. Appendix A, Administrative Survey. Appendix B, Overall Observational Data. And Appendix C is Annual Objectives. And the overall evaluation, 4.25, as I stated. I've got a few personal things that I want to say to the director, not speaking for the board, but speaking for me. Dr. Smith, I think you have the district on the right path. I know that you've had many challenges and you're gonna have many more, but you met all of those challenges head on. And I think that you have led our school district down the right path. And I think that you have your finger on the pulse of the direction that education should be taking. And I want to encourage you to stay the course. Keep doing what you're doing, even better. And I know everybody might not be on board, but I think about the scripture that say, woe unto him that everybody speaks well of. And if everybody's smiling at you, chances are you're not doing something right. And I want to encourage you to stay the course. Keep moving our system higher and higher. Our children deserve the best that we can give them. And I believe that we're on track to give them our best. Yeah. And I don't know if any of the other board members have anything to add.
I think Reverend Chris pretty much spoke for most of us, and I see all the hard work that she puts into it, and, day in and day out, so, I really appreciate the work she's doing. Anybody else want to add? Okay, at this time, we'll go ahead and move into some policy discussions, and at this time, I want to turn it over to Dr. Smith.
We don't have any policy reviews, but I would like to talk about a couple and give you some time to think about it, maybe get some feedback and direction from you as a board. The first one is on the use of personal communication devices, particularly cell phones. We spent a lot of time on this last summer, 2 or 3 different meetings that we worked on this to get it where we thought it was something that would work and was applicable. The high schools, I can tell you, are having challenges with this, particularly not in the classroom, in the hallways, in the restrooms, and areas like that. We are going to have a meeting, I believe, next week. We've got 2 or 3 scheduled where we're gonna sit down and discuss challenges, opportunities, some things that we can look at. Have we followed and done everything with interventions that we can do before we look at the policy? But we may wanna adjust the consequences to some degree, and I put that in the packet just for you to kind of review and to think about. If you have any ideas that we can look at, we're willing to look at that, but I just kind of want you to know there is a concern with the cell phones, even though they're not supposed to be out. And I keep seeing a lot of things that come across nationwide and articles and things where it's coming back into schools where it's a significant challenge again. It's not just here, it's in a lot of places. A lot of places have just said, no, you're not gonna have them at all. So we don't wanna go to that. We wanna make sure we're doing our due diligence first, but it is a challenge. The second one that I'm going to bring up, and just this is for feedback, deals with corporal punishment. We have a lot of model policies that came out this week from TSBA, so it's going to take some time to review those, go through it, look at it, and bring it to you for recommendation. But this one caught my eye because the new model policy, let's see if I can blow this up, has some additional, you do not.
Okay.
This is the model policy, and it has 4 new actions that have to be taken before administering corporal punishment. What I will say is, this is in our policy, but we do encourage administrators not to use it at all, and we have very, very limited use of it, but it is there and it is in our policy. My question is, do we want to take it completely out? Because if we don't, then these are the 4 things that we're going to have to look at. Behavior has to be addressed prior to administering corporal punishment. Consequences, addressing the behavior, consulting with parents and guardians, and considering the need to conduct an evaluation to determine if this is possibly a manifestation of a disability. Those are a lot of pretty significant steps for an administrator when we could just say, we're not going to allow this. So we're not looking for any action tonight, but I am looking for some feedback. If you want to call me or email me, what are your thoughts on this? Because we're going to have a very detailed process and procedure in place if we continue to keep this policy.
If you remember, I don't know if it's last year or the year before last, we actually reviewed this policy, and most of the principals were not using corporal punishment, but they also wanted to leave this in there. They felt like it may have a little bit of teeth in the policy by putting it in there. I think right now, I think the principals are pretty much indifferent for the most part.
We're gonna address this next week in the discipline meeting that we're gonna have. Honestly, we only have 2 schools this year that have even administrators. So the majority of them do not use it. Not even sure they use it as a potential. It's just, we left it in there so that they did have that option in case they needed it. But when they put these specifications in there, it kind of takes it to another level of, we're gonna have to be very careful if we do that all these things are done and processed properly.
It increases our liability.
Yeah, it does. So those are just 2 policies to think about. We have about 18 that we'll be bringing next month that have come out as a result of the last legislative session. So to have a July meeting. All right.
Okay. And the next on our agenda there is the student fees. You've got that information in your packet. If you have not seen it, I'm gonna give you just a little bit of time to review that. We have a parent, we have a child that has destroyed some of our equipment, and the parent is actually asking us to waive the fees. So, you know, we can't give you a lot of information about this because it is dealing with one of the students, but what the parent is asking is that we do waive the fees. And if you look in our policy, I think the policy, if I'm not mistaken, it's in your information too, it's up on the screen, it's in your information. It gives you the parameters and what the consequences are if you do not pay those fees. So we're just pretty much looking for guidance, possibly a motion as to whether we're going to waive the fees or not.
I actually like the sentence that says when the student and parent are unable to pay the debt, the district shall provide a program of volunteer work for the minor.
Well, we're dealing with a
Is it
third
a
grader.
third grader?
And I'm not sure, I don't know how much I can actually say. Okay, but yeah, it's a third grader, so I don't know how much
Volunteer work.
volunteer work they could do, so. But the main thing is, you've got that, letter in there, it's a request from the parent, and that's really what we need to.
Well, I was just looking at the principals, Ms. Buggs' letter that she wrote. Looks like this person has taken very good care of these devices. And actually asking for another one, is that right?
Well, there's not, I can't really answer a lot of questions in the public like this. I mean, we can't discuss some of this stuff because it does, you know, pertain to us, the child. It's a situation where the parent cannot afford to pay these fees. And I guess the question is, do we want to force the parent and then follow our policy as far as, I don't really know anything in our policy that's gonna really pertain to a third grader, other than suspend them. And I don't know what we're gonna gain by suspending the child.
Especially a third grader.
I don't think suspension is the answer.
I don't either.
I do think that we need to hold them accountable and make a payment plan, whether it be $5 a month. I mean, they've gotta make restitution and pay that at some point somehow. And there's, you know, they can afford some dollar amount. And I don't know what that is, and that would be for somebody else to work out, but I think we need to somehow not waver on our policy, because we do it for this one, you're gonna do it to somebody else.
Okay.
My opinion.
Well, if we have to do it for another one, if she can't pay it,
Well, I don't know. I may have,
That's what I'm saying.
I may have
It's-
spoken
it's-
out of turn because, you know,
Yeah.
she's just requesting that
yeah,
we do, that it be waived.
yeah.
So, I mean, Mr. Atkins has a very good point. He really does.
Yeah,
And there was not a payment plan offered, we can go back to that.
yeah,
I think the payment plan, and whoever meets with her will be reasonable on both accounts, on her part and our part too, to work with her.
Okay.
Even if it's a 2-year program, I mean, I would prefer that than to suspend a student or just waive it, in my opinion.
well, I've always been on the side of mercy. I say, waive it and be through with it.
I'll entertain a motion. I've heard both sides of it. I'll entertain a motion. We'll vote on one, and then if it don't pass, we'll vote on another one.
I'm just providing the information for policy. That's a description because we couldn't discuss it.
Can you tell us what kind of costs we're looking at?
I
It's 7, 10 miles.
It's, Dr. Bug's letter.
Oh, yeah, I see you right there.
So it's something that could be paid back in 2 years. I'm just concerned that if we waive this when the word gets out, it's kind of like, you know, do we have any teeth in our policy?
No, these,
Three.
So let me ask a question, is 3 the correct number?
Three.
That's what it says.
has damaged 3 Chromebooks and casing.
Yeah.
I would make a motion to meet with the parent to see if we can work out a plan to pay it. I mean, because, otherwise they're gonna have 4 and 5 and 6, in my opinion, of the same problem, because they're not having any accountability for what they're doing with the first 3 that they've been given.
Now, is the device is not able to be used? Cause it looks just like there's outside scratches. Is there more to it than?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
It's kind of hard to make a decision with that because we don't know anything what's happening with the child.
Exactly.
She tore up 3 computers, something else is going on.
I agree.
If we were just
Some
looking
other
at one, it'd be a
interventions
different
need to
story, I
take
think.
place.
That's how that makes it work.
Right.
Maybe just limited use, can you do that? Some limited use, we go ahead and,
Well, the question's not whether he's gonna be able to use any equipment anymore, it's a matter of, are we gonna waive the amount that they owe for replacing or repairing the computer? That's all this is, that's really all we're discussing, really.
I agree with Kitty, I think it just sets a bad precedence, because I mean, like you said, if you do it for one, then you don't know what's gonna happen down the road.
Mr. Atkins, did you put that in the form of motion?
I did put in the form of motion that somebody would meet with the parent to see if it's a possibility to work out a plan. You know, and I would give, Dr. Smith the rights to approve or, that plan if it's so worked out. That we wouldn't have to come back to us if they can work out something with the parent.
Okay. Does everybody understand the motion?
I didn't vote with it.
I make the motion to allow someone to meet with the parent to see if they can work out a payment plan. And if a payment plan can be worked out, that would be approved by both parties, the school system and the parent, that Dr. Smith will be able to approve that without bringing it back to us.
Okay, do I have a second to that motion?
Second.
Second by Mr. King. Any discussion, any more discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Thank y'all for that. I'm sorry we couldn't discuss that any more than what we did, but I appreciate y'all getting through that. Okay, next on the agenda is our capital improvement projects, and I'll turn that over to Dr. Smith.
With the governor's resolution for safety, there have been a lot of new legislative pieces that are going to have a very significant impact on capital improvement projects. Kind of like a perfect storm. We had a lot of momentum going with our project plan, and then this kind of threw up a brick wall. So what this is we are going to, I'm asking you to approve a lot of projects. These could be many years down the road, but we need some approvals prior to July 1, so that it's on the books, because we do not have a lot of guidance coming out of that resolution yet for safety and security. So this is kind of a proactive measure to be determined and continued later. A lot of these are things we've been talking about for over a year with the things that we have going on with that capital improvement project plan. So this is just approving projects that may or may not happen. It's just proactive.
And just to bring everybody up to date that's here tonight, these aren't projects that's just thrown at us here tonight. We've actually toured all the schools, we've seen some of the things that need to be done, so the things that are on here, we've already looked at these things, the bathrooms, the different projects. So, a lot of research has been done into these things, so we're well aware of, you know, what's ahead of us. And not all of them can be done because of the money and the financial constraints, but we're gonna get as many done as we can.
Can I say something since we're on capital improvement? This is not going forward, this is what has happened. I'm still not, and I guess the wrong word, not happy. I'm still concerned about that connector that connects the two buildings at Whitefield.
Have they done any work since we've talked about that?
None that I'm aware of.
They're supposed to put a French, where it kind of corners, they're supposed to put a French drain in. The wall is gonna go on all the way down. They're supposed to have painted a couple weekends ago.
Okay.
We're gonna add, I think, 4 more windows in there and make that door that goes to the kindergarten area some type of differentiated lock where it's not in it. So Randy's had that on his list for 2 or 3 weeks.
Okay. And my main concern was, and you answered it, that it didn't go all the way to the
Right.
bottom, and mud and water, the kids had to walk through that.
There's a plan.
Okay.
I'm not exactly sure where it is on the
Yeah.
list, but there's a new plan.
Okay.
Dr. Smith, you're looking for us just to approve this list.
Yes.
And like she's saying, we're not necessarily gonna do all of them, but we're gonna do the ones, prioritize and do the ones that we can do.
Make a motion to approve the list.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. King and seconded by Reverend Chris. Any discussion on any of that? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next on the list, is our agenda is the personnel update.
You have the list in your packet. This is current as of, I believe, yesterday, so it has probably changed today. But that was the most updated list we had. As with most districts, we're struggling with recruiting and finding teachers. We're actually probably doing pretty well considering, but you have everything there broken out by, category, area, and then what's going on in that particular area. So, we have filled 38 positions, and that's not bad for the second week of June. Any questions on that?
Next, we'll move into our committee reports. The only committee we actually had meet this past month was our budget committee. We had a meeting yesterday, very lengthy meeting. Mr. Ross, Mr. Atkins, Ms. Higgs, Dr. Smith, and myself were there. So at this time, I'm gonna turn it over to Mr. Atkins.
All right, y'all, put your seatbelts on. The first one, if you'll turn to in your book, I think it's gonna be easier if you look in the book. We're gonna have actually a budget, and it's gonna be the cafeteria budget. And as you all know, that we have been for several years, how many years, Lisa, they've been doing free lunches? Christie, Dr. Smith, who?
7, 8.
Yeah, it's been a while.
It's been a while.
We've been doing that for several years, and we want to continue to do it in this budget, this next budget year. If you will turn to the very last page in there, which will be page, page 14. Of course, all that shows all your income and all your expenses and all the previous pages there. And all the different schools that we have. If you look at it, the number that I want you to look at is $178,655 deficit. We want to present that to you, and we want to use this budget. We is in all, as in the school system, since I've been here, we have some very good managers and management, and and they always do a good job managing expenses, managing their money, and we always have done well with all of our budgets, as I feel like we will. I don't think that we'll be in the negative this much for this particular year. We do have $1.5 million in the fund balance in the cafeteria budget, or in the cafeteria fund, excuse me. So, I mean, that tells you what we've done in the past. The other thing that the cafeteria and the management will try to do will be increased participation. We get paid per lunch served, so a lot of children in some of the schools don't participate or don't get a tray. So they're gonna try to do several things in the cafeteria this next year to try to decrease this deficit. So hopefully once we end the year, hopefully that number will be a lot different. But that's our proposal for this budget. And the revenues closely match this year, so I feel like that we will be okay again this year, and then we'll just have to look at it for the following school year. We are providing these lunches to kids that can't afford it. We are providing these lunches to kids that possibly could afford it, but we do think it's really something that's needed for our system because of the diversity that we have, and that's the reason we want to try to continue on with the as we are with the free lunch program. So, is there any questions regarding what we've done in the past and what we're going to do in the future?
We provide them with free breakfast and lunch, right?
Correct. And that's another thing that they want to do, is to try to get more participation in the breakfast arena also. A lot of kids don't eat or don't bring their lunch, so that will be another thing that they'll try to do. Any other questions or comments? If there's not, I would entertain a motion. This comes as a recommendation from the budget committee, and we'll do this one first, and then we'll look at all of our other items.
Okay. Any discussion on that? Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Reverend Chris. Any more discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, again, these are all in your packet and in your electronic package as well, but we'll go through these. Of course, we're trying to finalize the end of the year, and Lisa has always done an excellent job with that, trying to balance these budgets to try to not have any findings. So a lot of this is just trying to move money around to make sure that we have enough money in each category to not have any findings. The first one is the general purpose budget, and that's the SPED. And most of these changes are trying to meet maintenance of effort in the SPED category. So if you look down through there, there's not really anything. There's just a lot of movement to try to be prepared for everything that you need. So if you look at the second page, I do want to point out one thing primarily. It's the $40,000 in line number 72310, and that's trustees commission. I wanted to make sure that you see that. That's increased because of our dollars, revenues increased. A lot of these funds, this money that we receive through ESSER, and they get a percentage. The trustee, county commission trustee gets a portion of that for their time and effort. So that's increased $40,000. So if there's any questions in any of these, the movement, let me know on this particular one. If there's not, let's look at the next one. The next one is your Perkins Fund. And for your CTE, this has no carryover provisions. So there are, if you see a movement there from all the different arenas that's going into instructional equipment. So that money will need to be spent this year. So, and that's that's a $10,000 movement. There's no questions there. We'll go to the next one. This is ESSER two. Of course, they're trying to finalize this by June of this year. So we will make sure that we spend all this money, that if not, we will lose it. So it is also, they're buying other equipment, as you see in them, for some textbooks. And that's in the ESSER 2.0. Any questions on that? If there's not, let's go to the next one, which is the Innovative High School grant. There again, this money will expire on June the 30th, so that needs to be spent. Dr. Smith has been working to trying to find things to do with the program facilitator to wisely spend the money. And interesting enough, they're going to buy a food truck, and I don't know if Christy wants to comment on that or not, but I thought that was a neat idea. I don't know if anybody had the knowledge, but Milton had several food trucks for reward days, and it was very well received by the students. And I thought, that'd be neat for all the schools to have that, and I don't know if that's where that came from or not, but I thought it was a real neat idea.
That came from when I asked Mr. Wood to think outside the box, and he told me, I said, I'm not sure I'm that far outside the box. I do have pictures I'll show in a few minutes.
So, us having those programs in we'll have both of those programs in our high school, that can utilize that. So I thought that was a good idea. You go to the next one, which is ESSER 3.0. Again, these monies is constantly being moved around every month to try to meet the needs as well as being utilized in the proper places. And I won't go over all those changes because there's a change in just about every category there. So if there's not any questions, we'll go to the next one, which is the epidemiology grant. That grant is ending again this year on June the 30th, and we're completing that grant. And Lisa's gonna buy a few items of equipment with her final dollars for $4,500. And the next one is the 21st Century grant. It has carryover ability, but this is the tutoring, and again, they're changing that to increase to instructional supplies. And again, I'll repeat that we're just trying to finalize the budgets for the end of the year. If you go to the next one, this grant expires. This is the physical pre-monitoring support grant, and Christy is going to hire an accounting firm. Dr. Smith, excuse me, is going to hire an accounting firm to review how we spend our money correctly. Christy, isn't that what the accounting for? So try to make sure that we are following the guidelines expected, and make sure that we utilize the money properly. So that's what that money will be used for. All right, the next one is consolidated administration. This has carryover ability. This is federal monies that again is moving around just for the end of the year. And then you go to the next one, which is Title I. There again, you're moving $493 around. And that does have carryover ability. And the next one is Darrell. So I mean, if y'all have any questions, you're probably going to ask him. But I don't think you'll have any questions. It's $25. So
We take up an offer.
Again, we're trying to finalize the year. The next one's Title IV. And they're trying to make sure that all the money's in the proper category that will be spent throughout the remainder of this year, which is almost here. The IDA budget, sub-fund 901, again, there's $7,000 that's going to be moved around to try to make sure we're in the right categories. Sub-fund 9, the next one, sub-fund 941, is a resilient grant. It was originally to sunset on June the 2023, but it has been extended. But and this is for emotional support for students went over quite a bit. Is there any questions, or anybody wanna go back on anything that we need to look at? If there's not, those all come from our committee's recommendation.
I know it's a lot to digest, but it has been in our package, so we've had time to look at it. Any questions? I'll entertain a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. King. Any more discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. At this time, you still got one more. Okay, I'm sorry.
And I don't know if Christie wants to say anything about Governor Lee, what she has on the screen or not, but, you know, he has aimed for all school systems to have their starting salary $50,000 for beginning teachers by 2027. We're looking at, trying to, this year, we propose to do a 4%, across the board salary increase for every full-time employee, certified and non-certified. Lisa, you stop me if I get anything wrong, I'll make sure I say this correctly. 4% across the board for every full-time employee, certified and non-certified. There is one caveat. If you look on the screen, anyone that has a total salary of over $65,000, and 1 penny will go over, that employee will get a 4% one-time bonus payment rather than affecting their salary schedule. These monies will be paid on or about September the 30th. There is a lot of, Christie and her staff, Dr. Smith has been doing a lot of salary studies and review of the salaries, and there is a lot of strange decreases per year. And I don't know if you ever studied or looked at it, but they're gonna look at that over the next year and have another recommendation next year to try to, one of the most important things is we wanna look at is retention of your teachers. But the first thing you've gotta do is get them here. And I mean, we've got these counties that's next to us, like Hardeman County, that you gotta compete with, and Chester County and all these others, so it's difficult. We're having a difficult time with recruitment, and that's the only thing that a teacher looks at is that starting salary. And Governor Lee says he wants everybody to be there, but he doesn't really put his money where his mouth is, in my opinion. He says it's in the base. So it all falls back on the school system to figure out how to pay these teachers. But anyway, get back to the matter at hand. Our recommendation is a 4% increase on the salary schedule for every full-time employee, certified and non-certified, with the one exception that you see on the screen. Any questions about this?
One of the reasons we looked at doing this in this manner is we don't have scales for a lot of classified and non-classified employees. As we've been doing research, because this is something we've been talking to the budget committee about for a few months, Lisa and I have spent an unbelievable amount of hours looking at this, looking at others. Almost every other district has a scale for everybody, for every category, every department. We're lacking that. So that's where this 4% payment came into, is to keep things in line with economic impacts, things like that. That scale will be part of the compensation package we bring to you next year.
But we did have a teacher scale, right?
Correct.
But not a non-certified.
We have some, like cafeteria has one, bus drivers have one, parapros have one, maintenance does not, bus garage does not, central office does not. Those things really need to be put in place.
With the bonus of over 65, is that gonna be incremental or lump sum.
The plan is lump sum.
Plan is lump sum, I believe that's what the budget committee.
Yeah.
Will this 4% scale increase bring our, how close will it bring us to that minimum that the governor is shooting for in
If you go back to
27?
the first
Are we gonna
screen,
have to go,
it's gonna be a several-year program.
okay, that was,
Because if you look at that, the starting salary is gonna be 42,500, so we're not close.
There are minimums already set for the next 4 years. I believe it's 42, 44, 5, 47, and 50. So we'll have to get there incrementally, and we played with everything from 42,000 to 44, 5. I don't know how many different runs of this we did in 1,000 different directions. We feel like right now this is the best thing to do. Next year's package will look very different, because we're also going to start taking benefits into account. We take benefits into account, but making sure our employees know what our benefits really are is important, and that's something that we've got to develop a communication plan for, to make sure that they do understand it, because health insurance is very costly, and we pay a lot of that. So looking at it as an overall, we didn't have time to do that in order to get this done by July, but we want bring you a full district-wide compensation package next year.
how does this align us with our, neighboring counties?
Some we're very close to, some we're not. There were different strategies that played out across West Tennessee this go round for this. Some front-loaded it this year, some will probably surpass them next year. We've got 4 years to get there to make this work. The thing about it is, that's a large jump, because once you jump in this first box right here, you have to jump in a lot of others, and it significantly increases your expenditures in that line item. So we've got to look at making sure we have proper personnel numbers, making sure we're in a financial sustainability mode in 4 years.
And it may take us a couple of years, like Mr. Atkins said. We don't know how much of this is gonna be in the TISA funding formula. We really don't. And it may be more than we think it will be. We don't know, but in a year or two, we'll have a better grasp on how much of this is gonna be in there and how much we're gonna have to dig in our pockets.
And that was one of the main contributing factors to let's go with this year and approach it from a different direction next year, because TISA is new, and we need a year to see what's going to fall out of that.
Okay, that is a recommendation from the budget committee. Do I have a second? Second, Ms. Naylor. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Is that it, Mr. Atkins?
It is, thank you.
Thank you very much, did a great job. Okay, at this time, we'll go ahead and turn it over to Dr. Smith and the director's report.
All right, a few things in the director's report this month. One, transportation services. We have a consultant that has already been in the district working on some things. They are looking at routing software systems. We have posted the supervisor of transportation position and completed some interviews for that. Hope to be hiring for that really soon, because we want that in place and running, and them to be involved in all of this over the summer as we transition. Number one concern is rerouting, making sure that our routes are effective and efficient. And the other thing is looking at doing some type of stipend for coaches to go and get their CDL if they do not have one. We've had somewhat of a problem with sports teams being able to find drivers, and a lot of districts require their coaches to have CDLs. So looking at giving them some incentive to go get theirs, so that when we're in situations where we need a driver, that's a possibility. Any questions on transportation? We're moving fast in that area finally. Bolivar Central did a neat snapshot on social media about some of the things that their seniors accomplished. And if you see up there, they had almost $2 million in scholarships that were awarded to the 2023 seniors. So we're extremely proud of that. We had 2 wonderful graduation ceremonies. The schools did a really good job this year with making sure it was organized. It was, very complimentary to those graduates, and we're proud of them and wish them the best as they enter their post-secondary lives. Believe it or not, after 2 years, the Innovative High School grant is expiring June the 30th. So when we meet again, this thing will be closed and wrapped up. It has provided us with a lot of opportunities. It has been a lot of work. But in the end, the greatest thing it did was it made us step back and evaluate all of our high school programming. And you've seen the things that have come out of that with all the new TCAP programs, certifications. We had 350 students that earned a post-secondary credit. Last year we had 2 TCAP courses. This year we had 7. We had, I don't see it on there, almost 200 industry certificates earned. And we honored the Central CNA students that had that at the last board meeting, and I saw that on Facebook the other day, an ad for people looking, a local business looking for CNAs starting at $21 an hour with a $3,000 sign-on bonus. And we just had 14 kids walk out of one school with that certificate ready to go to work. So that gives reasoning to why we do what we do and that why students need it. We were able to purchase over $600,000 worth of supplies, materials, and equipment for culinary, ag, and construction. Multiple partnerships have come out of this that have been extremely wonderful. But that is wrapping up. We are bringing it to a close. Some of us are going to celebrate. And as we mentioned, at the last moment, we were like, we've got a little bit of money left in this. We've got about 15 days to spend it. We need one thing that we can get in here pretty quick. And leave it to Joe T. This is what he comes up with. And I thought, you'll never find it. And in about 3 hours, he brought me pictures and said it's in Memphis. So I'm going to Memphis in a week or 2 to pick up this trailer. Well, you can see it's got water, sinks, prep tables, serving window. It is fully functional and ready to go. So food trucks were big. We had 3 or 4 schools, I believe, that kind of started using that concept this year. It's a big hit with the kids. But even greater than that, this is for our kids. This is for these new culinary classes where they can go out during those days, work this trailer. They can take it to Music on the Square if they want to do volunteer hours, things like that. We have a lot of sports that do not have concession stands at their fields. This is an option for that. So it has multiple multi-functioning uses, but it will be here soon. The UT Extension Group has, as we finished the Innovative High School grant, finished a flyer that they are going to be using in some of their presentations nationwide about our 9th grade Future Ready course. So that's been exciting. That was born out of the Innovative High School grant along with the exploratory elective. I am bad about calling it the 10th grade class. It is not. It's available to any 10th, 11th, or 12th grader. But it is the second part of Future Ready course. It's the next step if students want to do that. Focuses on ethics, workplace readiness, 21st century skills, communications. All the students are going to do ACT work keys and some certifications. So that's a new elective that we're able to add to our course offerings, and it did not cause us to have to hire another person.
Did they have to be in the first class to participate in the second?
All 9th graders take the first one. So this is for 10th, 11th, and 12th. So that was the Innovative High School grant, and beginning July 1st, we pick up the Innovative School Model grant, and we start over again for 3 years. So lots of good things planned for this, the tech hubs, things we've talked about, library renovations, keeping those certifications going. Those aren't really cheap, and so far we've been able to do that with no cost to the student. Professional development for innovation, the STEM Center, new work-based learning, all those things are going to be happening at an Innovative School Model. I'm sure none of you have heard anything about third grade retention. It has gone better than expected. You can see some numbers there. When we first got our TCAP scores back, we had 169 students that were below or approaching. We had to do the retake, and after the retake, we had 156. You add exemptions and appeals in there, and we ended up basically with 80 students who had to do either summer school or tutoring or both. And I believe we've got almost close to 100% participation this week so far in summer school. So it has been a lot of work. It has been a lot of tenacity on the behalf of the principals. The principals had to get on the phone last week and call parents. You need to get them in here. Do this. Michelle sat there glued to a computer watching scores come in and updating numbers. So it was a huge group effort. In the end, at the bottom, you can see that before the retake and before the exemptions and appeals, we had 76% that were in the qualification area of having to do some type of pathway, remedial pathway. After all of that washed out, we're at 34%. So we have 80 third graders that are doing one of the two to move on to fourth grade. We did have a few parents say, if they're in this situation, I don't want them to go on. So those were granted and manageable, not the greatest thing. We're just now gonna see the hard part when we start writing IOPs and things like that, but it's not, we're not in the situation we could have been in. And we have seen growth. And we don't have proficiency levels basically for a lot of our other tested subjects, but we do have cut scores, so we can kind of guesstimate. And Michelle, correct me if I'm wrong, but what I've looked at, just guesstimating, we look like we had some improvement, and particularly in high school. So that was very encouraging news. Kind of difficult to look at growth, but we did have improvement in proficiencies. Speaking of summer school, we do have the 80 third graders, but we also had about 500 other students sign up, and I believe of those 500 or 633, we have about 70% attendance rate, which is pretty good. Other districts really don't come close to the number of kids we have in summer school, and that is a testament to teachers, principals, teaching and learning, getting on that phone, telling people the importance of it. Lone Oaks plays a big deal in that. We have kids that go the other 4 days just so they can go to Lone Oaks that 5th day. We'll do whatever it takes. Running the buses, things like that. So summer school is a lot of work to put together. Michelle has kind of shouldered this one and reached out and made sure everything was coordinated. We've got a lot of other things going on as well. We've got ACT boot camp at Middleton this week, at Central in a couple of weeks. I believe they had 14 maybe signed up at Middleton. That's not bad for some week-long ACT boot camp. We also have the 7th through 12th grade enrichment program happening this week at Lone Oaks, and they are doing some really neat things with it. They've had wings come in, they've done water testing, soil testing, what else? All kind of stuff.
Tomorrow's drones and robots and
Drones and
circuits.
robots, so exciting things happen. It takes a lot of planning, preparation, and work to make those things happen. And there's some of our students at Lone Oaks this week. One thing we did have, I thought I had it bigger on here. About the second week of May, we had Kayleen McCabe with DIY Network. She was the host of, what was the name of that show? Does anybody remember? I can't remember. She was a DIY host. She came and built toolboxes with our second graders. And they had the construction group at Baller cut the wood and come in and help the kids put them together. So it was really exciting. The kids were great. And they got to go home with a toolbox and a hammer. That kind of scared me, but. Yesterday, we have made it through round 2 of the Ayers Foundation grant application, I guess you would call it. The Ayers Foundation is very well known, well respected in several districts, particularly in West Tennessee. Their goal is to help increase students' access to post-secondary institutions. And they put counselors in high schools to kind of work alongside our counselors just to make sure kids know opportunities, know pathways, And all of that fits in perfectly with our mission of what we're trying to provide these kids with, awareness and opportunities. So we're excited to see if we make it through that. It's been a pretty detailed, rigorous process. We had to have an interview with 4 people from AIRS yesterday, so we're in step 2. We'll know June 21st if we are awarded that partnership or not, but it's going to be a very large one if we do get it. Hope Street, again, has been demoed. The fire sprinkler system plans are in Nashville at the fire marshal's office, and we cannot do anything else until those are back. So we are just in holding mode, waiting on that approval. And once those come back, that can be installed, and then we can finish the renovation part. The next board meeting is scheduled for June 13th, July 13th. Due to the policies, we will need to have that meeting. That is a week. July's always hectic for anybody. Do you want to move that to July 6th or leave it at 13th? Anybody have any preferences on that?
I can't attend the 6th,
Okay.
but I mean, I don't have to be here either, so. But I mean, I don't need vacation that week.
So leave it the 13th.
Everybody okay with 13th?
I'm checking. I think so. I'm good on the 13th. Is it gonna be a work session or a regular
It'll
meeting?
be a regular meeting. It's mainly gonna be policy based.
Okay.
We really shouldn't have anything else other than policy, and there are
There
several.
were quite a few.
There's a lot.
We pulled them out for our Hardin County friends. They do us the same courtesy when we evaluate them.
So we're having a July meeting for policies if you wanna come back. We did just get them early this week, so we do need some time. But any questions on anything in the director's report? Still have exciting things happening. All right, that's
Tell
all I
me
have.
more about the AIRS Foundation. What were they, you said there was somebody that, in this high school?
They will place what they call a counselor, for lack of a better word, in each high school, and that person's main role is, let's say U-Science identifies these 5 kids that have an aptitude of engineering, and they have expressed an interest to want to do that. One, they'll individually counsel with each child to see what their pathway is and things like that. And then if they have a student that says, I do want to go to college, maybe I don't know, have the resources to do it, they can show them the pathway. Hey, you could go from here to Jackson State, to this school, to that school, how to do it the most cost-effective way, what their options are for what types of degrees, which degree does it take, which schools have that degree, things like that. So they're really a Google almost, but they keep checking on the kids. And there's somebody that's in-house that they get to know and build those relationships with, to be able to go and say, I wanna do this. They also follow them after school. So if you have a student that goes and they go to Jackson State, make it one semester and quit, then decide the next year they wanna go back, those people are still available to our kids after they graduate.
So is it mainly for college,
It's-
students?
It's
or-
for post-secondary, so it includes TCAP.
Anything else? Again, I'd like to thank Bobby and David for being here tonight and evaluating us. Thank y'all, appreciate everybody on the board for your hard work and dedication, and at this time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion made by Mr. King, seconded by Reverend Chris and Jennifer Ayler. All in favor say aye. Any opposed, motion carries.